Please, just one night, the child cried to the Mafia boss. Mommy can't walk another mile. A desperate mother breaks into what she thinks is an abandoned restaurant during a blizzard, only to find herself staring down the barrel of a gun held by one of Chicago's most dangerous men. He should kill them both. Instead, he offers protection, but at a deadly price. What this mother doesn't know, her dead husband stole millions from 3 crime families, including his. What the Mafia boss doesn't realize, someone inside his organization wants them both dead. As enemies close in from all sides, the mother discovers her nursing skills might save the life of the crime lord's dying father. And when the child forms an unexpected bond with the ruthless boss, boundaries blur between captivity and protection. But when the mother uncovers the truth that her husband made their daughter the biological key to accessing the stolen millions, she must make an impossible choice. Will she risk everything to escape the man who began as her captor, or trust the dangerous criminal who's now fighting to protect what he claims is his? The hidden office beneath Castellanos was a stark contrast to the modest restaurant above. Rich mahogany panels lined the walls, and a massive desk dominated the space. The leather chairs and oriental rugs screamed wealth, but Viola couldn't appreciate any of it. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she held Lily close. Sergio moved behind the desk with fluid grace, his presence filling the room. Even seated, he radiated dangerous authority. His steel-gray eyes never left them as he pressed a button on his desk phone. "Send Maria down with the doctor's bag," he ordered, his accent subtle but present. Viola's nurse's training kicked in as she felt Lily's forehead again. "She needs children's Tylenol. Her fever's getting worse." "The medication will arrive shortly." Sergio's voice was oddly gentle, though his expression remained hard. "Now, Mrs. Russo, explain why Michael's widow chose my establishment to break into." Viola's blood ran cold. "You knew my husband?" "I know of him, and his unfortunate gambling habits." Sergio's lips curved slightly, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "Though I'm more interested in why his creditors are pursuing his widow with such enthusiasm." Lily coughed, and Viola rubbed her back soothingly. "I don't know anything about Michael's debts. After the accident, men started watching our house. They left notes." Her voice cracked. "They said Michael owed them millions, that he'd stolen from them." Sergio's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Before he could respond, a sharp knock preceded an elderly woman entering with a black medical bag. She moved directly to Lily, her experienced hands checking the child's temperature. 102.3, Maria announced, already pulling out liquid Tylenol. "The poor bambina is exhausted." Viola helped Lily take the medicine, noting how Sergio watched their every move. His attention was unnervingly focused, analyzing their interaction as if searching for deception. "When did these men first appear?" he asked once Maria had left. 2 weeks ago. At first, just watching. Then the notes started. Viola swallowed hard. "Yesterday, one of them approached Lily at her school playground. That's when we ran." Something dangerous flickered in Sergio's eyes. "They threatened the child?" "Not directly, but the message was clear." Viola's arms tightened around Lily, who had dozed off again. "I took what cash I had and drove north. We were heading to my cousin's in Minneapolis when the car died." Sergio studied them silently for a long moment. The quiet was broken only by Lily's congested breathing and the muted sound of the storm outside. Finally, he picked up his phone again. "Antoni, bring the Penthouse Suite records." He switched to Italian for several rapid sentences before hanging up. "Mrs. Russo." "Viola," she corrected automatically, then flushed at her boldness. A hint of amusement crossed his face. "Viola, your husband's debts are complicated. The men pursuing you work for the Moretti family. They believe Michael stole significant funds from their casino operations." "I don't know anything about that," Viola insisted. "I'm a pediatric nurse. Michael handled all the finances." "Yet you recognize this wasn't an ordinary restaurant." His observation was pointed. Viola met his gaze steadily. "The filing cabinets upstairs aren't exactly subtle. Neither are the weapons I saw on the security feeds." "Observant." He leaned back, regarding her thoughtfully. "That could keep you alive. Your husband made powerful enemies, Viola. Enemies who won't believe you know nothing about their missing millions." A man entered carrying a thick folder, which he placed on Sergio's desk before departing silently. Sergio opened it, scanning the contents while Viola's anxiety mounted. "The Morettis are not known for their mercy," he continued. "They will use any means to recover their money, including a 6-year-old girl with medical needs. Viola felt sick. What do they think I can tell them? I didn't even know about the casino until after Michael died. The truth is irrelevant to them. Sergio's voice was matter-of-fact. You and your daughter are leverage. They will use you to flush out anyone who might know where Michael hid their money. Then help us get away, Viola pleaded. I have family in Minneapolis. The Morettis have connections throughout the Midwest. Distance won't protect you. He closed the folder decisively. You need something more substantial than distance. What are you suggesting? Protection. My protection. His gray eyes held hers. The Castellano family has significant interests in Chicago. Our umbrella of security could extend to you and Lily. Viola's heart raced. In exchange for what? Your skills. He nodded toward her hospital ID. Our pharmaceutical operations occasionally require medical expertise. Your specialization in pediatric care could be useful. The implications slowly sank in. You want me to work for you in your illegal operations? I'm offering you a choice, Viola. Accept my protection and put your medical training to broader use, or take your chances with the Morettis. His voice softened slightly as he glanced at Lily. Consider carefully what's at stake. Dawn painted streaks of pink and orange across the Chicago skyline as Viola's eyes fluttered open. Her neck ached from sleeping awkwardly on the leather couch, but she didn't dare move with Lily's warm weight pressed against her chest. The office looked different in the morning light, less menacing but no less alien. Crystal decanters caught the sunrise, casting amber shadows across thick carpeting that probably cost more than her yearly salary. Voices drifted through the wall, sharp with tension despite their attempts at hushed tones. Viola strained to hear, picking out snippets of Italian interwoven with English. The Russo woman is a liability, an older male voice insisted, his accent heavier than Sergio's cultured tones. We should hand her to the Morettis and be done with it. The name is the reason she stays. Sergio's response was cold, brooking no argument. Or have you forgotten whose money went missing through our accounts? Viola's heart thundered against her ribs. She shifted slightly, trying to hear more without disturbing Lily. The door swung open before she could catch anything else, and she found herself pinned by Sergio's calculating stare. He'd changed into an expertly tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car. Even his pocket square matched his steel gray eyes with deadly precision. The older man behind him, heavy-set, with silver-streaked black hair and familiar features, glared at her with undisguised hostility. His suit was equally expensive, but somehow looked less natural on him, like he'd never fully adapted to wearing them. Mrs. Russo. Sergio's voice was deceptively pleasant. I trust you slept well. As well as one can while being held captive, she replied, unable to completely mask her bitterness. His lips quirked slightly. Captive? That's such an ugly word, especially considering your husband's creative accounting through our organization. Ice filled her veins. What are you talking about? Michael Russo. Sergio moved to his desk with fluid grace, picking up a thick file. Small-time accountant who somehow managed to embezzle over $5 million while laundering money through Castellano operations. Quite the achievement for such an unremarkable man. That's impossible, Viola whispered, though doubt gnawed at her. The expensive gifts, the mysterious business trips, Michael's increasing paranoia in those final weeks. I assure you, it's quite possible. Sergio's tone hardened. Your husband didn't just have gambling debts, Mrs. Russo. He stole from 3 different crime families, including mine. The men hunting you believe you know where that money is hidden. The older man, Paolo, based on Sergio's earlier introduction, stepped forward. Perhaps more persuasive methods would loosen her tongue. Viola instinctively tightened her arms around Lily, who stirred slightly at the movement. Her small face was still flushed with fever. I don't know anything about any money, Viola insisted. Michael handled all our finances. I never questioned. She swallowed hard. I never thought to question where it came from. Uncle, Sergio's voice carried a warning edge. Leave us. Paolo's face darkened with barely concealed rage, but he complied, closing the door with controlled force. Here's your situation, Viola. Sergio perched on the edge of his desk, looming over them. You have information I need. Whether you realize it or not, your husband left you something, account numbers, property deeds, safety deposit keys. Until I recover what he stole, you and Lily will remain under my protection. And if I refuse your protection, then I use you as bait to draw out my rivals. His smile was shark-like. How long do you think Lily's medication would last in their custody? Viola felt sick. You're a monster. I'm a businessman protecting my interests. He straightened, adjusting his cuffs. The car's waiting. We're moving you somewhere more secure. The penthouse took her breath away, despite her fear. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered stunning views of Lake Michigan, while the interior dripped with understated luxury. Original artwork adorned walls, painted in sophisticated neutrals. The guest room he led them to featured a king-sized bed with linens that felt like clouds. The room is monitored, Sergio informed her as she settled Lily under the covers. Every exit has armed security, and the elevator requires biometric access. Don't waste energy plotting escape. Why not just turn us over to the other families? Viola asked, smoothing Lily's hair back from her forehead. Something flickered in Sergio's eyes as he watched the gesture. Because Lily reminds me of someone. Consider it her gift of borrowed time. That night, after ensuring Lily was deeply asleep, Viola retrieved the bobby pin she'd hidden in her sock. The electronic lock wasn't complicated, not compared to the ones she'd practiced on during her rebellious teenage years. Her hands trembled slightly as she manipulated the wiring, but eventually the light turned green. Her triumph lasted exactly 2 seconds before the door swung open to reveal Sergio, looking darkly amused in his shirt sleeves. Impressive for a nurse, he remarked, filling the doorway with his imposing frame. But pointless. Even if you got past this door, there are 15 armed men between you and the ground floor. He stepped closer, forcing her to retreat. There's nowhere to run, Viola. The sooner you accept that, the sooner we can discuss what your husband really left you. The door closed. With crushing finality, the reinforced lock engaging with an echo of her trapped circumstances. The snow fell in thick flakes outside the penthouse window, blanketing Chicago in pristine white that belied the darkness of Viola's situation. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass, watching her breath fog the surface while keeping one eye on Lily, who sat contentedly coloring at a nearby table. 3 days of luxurious captivity had done little to ease her anxiety. The expensive clothes that had appeared in their room's closet felt like costumes. The gourmet meals delivered by silent staff tasted like ash in her mouth. Only Raphael, Sergio's stoic bodyguard, offered any sense of humanity in their gilded cage. He at least acknowledged them as people rather than problems, though his watchful eyes never wavered. The elevator's distinctive hum broke the afternoon quiet. Viola turned to see Sergio stride in, accompanied by a silver-haired man carrying a medical bag. Her heart jumped. She'd been worried about Lily's asthma without access to her regular medication supply. Mrs. Russo, the doctor greeted her professionally, though his deference to Sergio made his allegiance clear. I understand your daughter needs evaluation. Lily submitted to the examination with practiced patience, having spent enough time in doctor's offices to know the routine. The fever had mostly subsided, but her breathing still carried a slight wheeze that made Viola's maternal instincts spike with concern. When the doctor stepped aside with Sergio, Viola edged closer to catch their conversation. The girl needs consistent pulmonary care, the doctor murmured. Her condition requires specialized monitoring, particularly given her history of serious attacks. Sergio's expression remained impassive, but Viola had learned to read the subtle tightening around his eyes that indicated concern. She seized the moment to approach them. I'm her mother, she interrupted firmly. Any discussions about her medical care should include me. Instead of the anger she expected, Sergio's lips curved slightly as he studied her. The doctor excused himself, leaving a prescription that one of the guards would presumably fill. Speaking of public appearances, Sergio said smoothly, you'll be accompanying me to a family function tonight. Excuse me? You've been here 3 days. Questions are being asked. Your presence at my side will provide a convenient explanation while I continue investigating your husband's activities. Viola's cheeks burned. I won't pose as your mistress. You'll pose as whatever I require. His tone remained conversational, but his next words cut like ice. Your cousin in Minneapolis? Sarah, isn't it? The kindergarten teacher? It would be unfortunate if something happened to her simply because you couldn't play along for one evening. The threat to her only remaining family member struck deep. Viola swallowed her pride and nodded stiffly. When Raphael's wife, Claudia, arrived to watch Lily, the penthouse's atmosphere shifted subtly. The woman brought genuine warmth with her, greeting Lily with natural affection that made the child smile. More surprising was Raphael's transformation, his usual rigid posture softening as he helped his wife with her coat, their comfortable intimacy suggesting that humanity could exist even in Sergio's dangerous world. Call me immediately, If her breathing changes, Viola insisted, as she prepared to leave, having changed into an elegant black dress that probably cost more than her monthly salary. She knows her warning signs, but we'll take good care of her, Claudia assured her, squeezing her hand with surprising gentleness. The Castellano family estate sprawled across manicured grounds, its Italian architecture a testament to old money and power. Inside, Viola endured introductions as Sergio's companion, feeling the weight of suspicious gazes. Paolo's barely concealed sneer spoke volumes, while another cousin named Luciano watched her with calculating interest that made her skin crawl. During an elaborate dinner, conversations revealed that Salvatore Castellano, the family patriarch, was undergoing treatment in Switzerland for a serious illness. More interesting were the tensions crackling beneath polite exchanges, particularly regarding business decisions made during Salvatore's absence. Sergio fielded challenges to his authority with lethal grace, but Viola sensed deep rifts within the family structure. The evening's true danger revealed itself on the drive back. Viola noticed the dark SUV following them before Sergio's calm voice instructed his driver to take evasive action. Her heart stopped as he reached beneath his seat for a gun. "Get down," he ordered, just as the first shots shattered their rear window. Their car accelerated through Chicago's streets, Sergio returning fire with disturbing precision. When one of the pursuing vehicles pulled alongside them, Viola watched in horror as he dispatched the driver with a single shot. The SUV careened into a row of parked cars with a thunderous crash. As they sped away from the scene, Sergio tucked his weapon away and straightened his tie as if he hadn't just killed a man. His voice was quiet but carried absolute certainty. "Now you understand. This is what your husband brought to your door. The men hunting you won't hesitate to kill Lily to find that money." The rest of the drive passed in terrified silence as Viola fully comprehended the deadly game she'd been unwittingly drawn into. Her husband's crimes had trapped them in a world where violence lurked beneath sophisticated veneers, where family meant both protection and danger, and where her daughter's safety hung by an increasingly fragile thread. The elevator ride to the penthouse felt endless. Viola's hands shook as she jabbed the button repeatedly, desperate to reach Lily. The shooting replayed in her mind, the shattering glass, the precise way Sergio had pulled the trigger, the horrifying crash that followed. When the doors finally opened, she rushed past the guards, barely registering their presence. She found Lily curled up in her bed, golden hair spread across the pillow, breathing steady and peaceful. Claudia sat in a nearby armchair, a novel open in her lap. "She's been perfect," Claudia said softly, gathering her things. "We played games, had dinner, and she took her medication right on schedule." Viola touched Lily's forehead, checking for fever out of habit. "Thank you," she whispered, throat tight with emotion. After Claudia left, the click of expensive shoes on hardwood announced Sergio's arrival. He carried 2 crystal tumblers of amber liquid, extending one toward her. "You look like you need this." She accepted the glass with trembling fingers but didn't drink. Who were they? "The Donato family," Sergio's voice carried carefully controlled rage. "One of 3 organizations your husband stole from. They're getting impatient." "I want to know everything," Viola demanded, her voice stronger than she felt. "No more vague threats. What exactly was Michael involved in?" Sergio studied her for a long moment before retrieving a laptop from his office. He pulled up financial records, turning the screen toward her. "Your husband wasn't just gambling. He was laundering money for multiple criminal enterprises. Your nursing career provided the perfect cover for your lifestyle." Viola stared at the screen, her world tilting. Regular cash deposits into their joint account. Large sums she'd somehow never questioned. Designer clothes she'd thought were outlet finds. Vacations that should have been beyond their means. "I thought," her voice cracked. "I thought he was having an affair." "Tell me about that," Sergio prompted, watching her intently. Viola sank into a chair, the whiskey suddenly appealing. The last year, he was barely home. When he was, he'd lock himself in his office for hours. Suspicious phone calls, hidden text messages. I convinced myself he had someone else. She laughed bitterly. I was actually relieved when I thought that was all it was. When did the behavior change start? About 18 months ago. He became distant, controlling about finances, though we seemed to have plenty of money. He fought me taking the position at Boston Children's Hospital, a job I'd dreamed of. Said we couldn't leave Detroit. The pieces were finally falling into place. He was tied to operations there, wasn't he? Sergio nodded, his expression calculating as he assessed her words for deception. My investigators found offshore accounts accessed days before his death. We need passwords. They spent hours going through possibilities, birthdays, anniversaries, family names, significant numbers from their life together. Each failed attempt felt like another betrayal, another reminder of how little she'd really known her husband. When Lily woke from her nap, Viola saw her opportunity. The kitchen smoke alarm was easy to trigger with burned toast. In the chaos of guards responding, she scooped up Lily and slipped into the emergency stairwell. 17 flights of stairs passed in a blur of adrenaline and desperation. They reached the parking garage, Lily quietly cooperative, trained by months of her mother's anxiety to move quickly and silently. The service exit was just ahead. Freedom tantalizingly close. Strong hands grabbed her shoulders. 2 of Sergio's men materialized, their expressions grim. But instead of dragging them back upstairs, urgent commands crackled through their earpieces. They hustled Viola and Lily toward a service entrance, taking defensive positions. Gunfire erupted, deafening in the enclosed space. Viola clutched Lily to her chest, sheltering her daughter's eyes as Sergio and his men engaged the masked attackers with lethal efficiency. 3 bodies hit the ground in quick succession. The last attacker had been mere steps from the door she'd been racing toward. When the echoes faded, Sergio approached. Blood dotted his pristine shirt like macabre modern art. His eyes blazed with cold fury. "They were waiting for exactly this! You making a run for it." His voice cut like steel. "If you had made it outside, Lily would be gone and you'd be dead." His fingers gripped her arm, his face inches from hers. "Do you understand now? You don't leave my protection until this is resolved." The truth hit her with crushing force. Their gilded cage was the only thing keeping them alive. Lily's small hand slipped into hers as they headed back upstairs. "The bad men can't get us when Mr. Sergio is here, right?" Viola stared at her daughter's innocent trust in the deadly man leading them to the elevator. She had no answer for that. No way to explain that their greatest threat might also be their only salvation. Through the office window, Viola watched Sergio crouch beside Lily on the terrace, his large hand guiding her small fingers over a chess piece. The morning sun caught his profile, softening the harsh lines she'd come to associate with danger. The gentle breeze ruffled his dark hair, momentarily making him appear almost approachable, almost normal, a stark contrast to the man who'd given orders with lethal consequences just days before. "The horsey can only move in an L shape," Lily explained seriously, her little face scrunched in concentration as she demonstrated the pattern with her finger hovering above the board. Sergio nodded with surprising patience, his full attention devoted to her daughter as if there weren't a criminal empire demanding his oversight. "Knight," he corrected gently, his voice carrying through the partially open window. "And yes, that's exactly right. Very smart of you to remember that." The praise made Lily beam with pride, her small shoulders straightening. The scene jarred against everything Viola knew about him, the man who'd executed attackers with cold precision, now teaching her. Daughter chess, with genuine interest, his dangerous hands so careful with the delicate pieces. The same fingers that had pulled triggers were now adjusting pawns with meticulous care. She forced her attention back to the stack of Michael's financial documents spread across the desk, columns of numbers that revealed the depth of her husband's deception. But her eyes kept drifting to the unlikely pair through the window. Lily had never shown interest in chess before, yet she seemed captivated not just by the game, but by her intimidating teacher. An hour later, Sergio entered the office after settling Lily with the Little Mermaid in the media room. His suit was impeccable as always, charcoal gray fabric tailored to emphasize his broad shoulders, no trace of the man who'd sat cross-legged on the terrace floor. His expression had resumed its usual guarded calculation, all softness vanished, like morning mist under harsh sun. "We need to discuss our cover story," he said, leaning against his desk, arms crossed over his chest. His cologne, subtle notes of cedar and something distinctively masculine, drifted across the space between them. "My investigators need more time to unravel Michael's connections, and your presence requires explanation beyond these walls." Viola's fingers tightened on the papers she held, crinkling the edges. "What kind of explanation?" Her stomach nodded with apprehension. "You'll accompany me to family functions, business events, as my girlfriend." He delivered this bombshell with the same tone he might use to discuss the weather, matter-of-fact and non-negotiable. A bitter laugh escaped her throat. "Who would believe that? The nurse and the mob boss? It's absurd." The thought of pretending intimacy with him made her pulse quicken uncomfortably. "Everyone." His gray eyes held hers, unflinching and direct. Powerful men often choose beautiful women with complicated pasts. No one questions it. The arrangement offers you more freedom while maintaining appearances and keeping you both protected. She looked away, unsettled by his blunt assessment and the implicit compliment buried within it. Her attention caught on a medical ledger mixed among Michael's files. Something about the formatting stood out, different from standard hospital documentation. Flipping through it, her nurse's training flagged concerning details. Pharmaceutical shipments with irregularities, quantities that didn't align with standard practices, routing numbers that made no clinical sense. "You're trafficking medications," she said, voice flat, pieces falling into place. This wasn't just about casino skimming or protection rackets. This was something else entirely. Instead of the rage she expected at her discovery, Sergio walked with unhurried steps to a painting on the wall, a Modigliani reproduction with elongated figures and haunting eyes. He swung it aside, revealing a keypad. With practice movements, he entered a code, and a hidden door clicked open, revealing a temperature-controlled room lined with medical supplies. LED lights illuminated shelves of medications, organized with pharmaceutical precision. "My father has Erdheim-Chester disease," he said as she followed him inside, curiosity overcoming caution. The cool air carried the antiseptic smell of a hospital supply room. "It's destroying his nervous system. European trials show promising results with experimental treatments, but the FDA denied approval. Politics and profit margins delayed what could help him." Viola scanned the labels, recognizing cutting-edge medications that rarely appeared outside research hospitals, drugs that could mean life or death for patients with rare conditions. "So you import them illegally?" It wasn't a question. Alongside legitimate pharmaceuticals, yes. He watched her process this, his expression revealing nothing of his thoughts. "Sometimes legal channels fail those who need help most. I don't expect you to understand." "And the profits fund other criminal activities?" she pressed, unwilling to let him claim simple nobility of purpose. His expression remained neutral, a perfect mask. "Family comes first. I do what's necessary. The medications reach people who would otherwise suffer without them. The rest..." He left the sentence hanging, an unspoken acknowledgement of the complexity of his operations. Before she could respond, Raphael appeared in the doorway, his posture alert, despite his relaxed demeanor. "Sir, we've located Harrison." Sergio's demeanor shifted instantly to predatory focus, his entire body tensing with dangerous intent. "Where?" The single word carried lethal promise. "Milwaukee. The team is ready. We have surveillance on his location at the Eastwood Hotel." He nodded sharply. "We move in an hour." Turning back to Viola, he outlined their public appearance rules with clipped efficiency. "Show willing affection, never discuss business, stay close to me at all times. Remember, every moment of pretense buys time to resolve the situation and keep Lily safe." "I have one condition," she said firmly, squaring her shoulders and meeting his gaze directly. "You can control where I go, but never who I am. I won't become someone unrecognizable to my daughter. I won't lose myself in this game." Something like respect flickered in his eyes as he nodded, the barest inclination of his head. "Your integrity isn't what's in question here. Your safety is." That night, sleep eluded her, thoughts churning with everything she'd learned. The weight of Michael's betrayal and the uncertain future ahead kept her restless in the luxurious bed that wasn't her own. Around 2 a.m., she gave up trying, wrapping herself in a silk robe and padding barefoot through the quiet penthouse. She found Sergio in his office, tie loosened and sleeves rolled up, multiple screens displaying security footage from the garage attacks, his focus absolute as he searched for something specific. Without speaking, she set coffee beside him, a small peace offering prepared in the gourmet kitchen. The rich aroma filled the space between them, momentarily masking the tension. "Michael's accident," she said quietly, voicing the question that had haunted her since learning of his criminal connections. Was it really an accident? He studied her for a long moment, weighing something in his mind before responding. "No. It was made to look like one." His voice was flat, stating a fact rather than delivering a blow, though the impact was the same. Her heart pounded against her ribs. "Who?" The word came out barely above a whisper. Someone who knew exactly what he'd stolen and how to make it disappear. His voice hardened, edges sharp enough to cut. "Someone inside my organization. Someone with access to information few possess." The implications hit her like ice water. Not only was Sergio hunting a traitor, but that same person had orchestrated Michael's death. The person responsible for her husband's murder might be someone they'd soon face at a family dinner, smiling and unsuspecting of what Sergio knew. "Whoever killed your husband has been feeding the Donatos information about your movements," he added with cold certainty. "Finding them is now our mutual interest." He returned to studying the footage, eyes scanning for details others would miss, but that single word, "our," lingered between them. For the first time, they weren't simply captor and captive, but allies against a common enemy. The shift was subtle but profound, realigning their relationship into something undefined, yet oddly less adversarial. The office fell silent except for the soft click of Sergio advancing through surveillance frames. Viola sank into a leather chair, cradling her coffee, mind racing through implications. The traitor had to be someone with significant access, someone who could track their movements, manipulate information, perhaps even someone who sat at the Castellano family table. A chill ran down her spine at the thought of dining beside the person responsible for her current situation, for Michael's death, for the danger surrounding Lily. She studied Sergio's profile in the blue glow of the screens, his jaw tight with concentration, and realized with unsettling clarity that in this moment she trusted his determination more than she feared his methods. The man who'd kidnapped them was now their best hope of uncovering the truth and surviving it. Early morning sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the penthouse's marble floors. Viola helped Lily button her cardigan, smoothing the fabric with practiced care. "Will Miss Martinez be nice?" Lily asked, fidgeting with her new pencil case. "I'm sure she will be, sweetheart." Viola forced brightness into her voice, though the thought of a private tutor, another sign of their permanent situation, made her stomach clench. Sergio stood in the kitchen doorway, impeccable in a charcoal suit, watching. Their morning routine. 2 weeks had transformed their captivity into something more complex, with small freedoms granted as trust, or at least compliance, grew. "The tutor comes highly recommended," he said, pouring coffee. "She works with several prominent families." Viola nodded, recognizing both the kindness and calculation in providing Lily education. "Thank you." "We have the charity gala tonight," Sergio continued. "The Castellano family has supported Chicago Children's Hospital for 3 generations. My absence would be noted." "Noted by whom?" Viola asked, though she suspected the answer. "Everyone who matters." His gray eyes met hers. "Both legitimate and otherwise. You'll need preparation." Throughout the day, a parade of professionals transformed Viola. A stylist brought racks of designer gowns, discussing colors and cuts like battle strategy. A makeup artist demonstrated evening techniques while casually dropping names of other clients. Wives and girlfriends of men, Viola now understood, were as dangerous as Sergio. The etiquette coach, an elegant woman named Diana, provided subtle warnings disguised as social instruction. "When Antonio Donato compliments your dress," she demonstrated, "smile graciously but briefly. Extended eye contact could be misinterpreted as interest or invitation." "Is this really necessary?" Viola asked, exhausted by the endless rules. "In my world," Sergio answered from his desk, "appearances aren't vanity, they're survival. Any weakness becomes a target." Evening approached with mounting tension. Viola stood before her mirror, barely recognizing herself in a midnight blue gown that cost more than her yearly nursing salary. A knock announced Sergio's entrance. He held a leather box bearing the Castellano family crest. Inside, diamonds caught the light, a necklace and earrings that spoke of old money and power. "I can't wear these," Viola protested. "The girlfriend of Sergio Castellano doesn't wear costume jewelry to Chicago's premier charity event." His tone left no room for argument as he fastened the necklace himself, his fingers brushing her neck. The weight of the diamonds matched the heavy reality settling between them. This charade could last months, maybe longer. At the gala, crystal chandeliers cast warm light over Chicago's elite. Viola noticed how conversations paused when Sergio entered, respect and fear mingling in quick glances. His hand remained possessive at her waist, his public persona warmer than private, charm deployed as strategically as violence. "I need to speak with Judge Matthews," Sergio murmured. "Stay within sight." Moments after he stepped away, a man approached Viola, handsome with familiar features that made her pulse quicken. "James Russo?" He smiled. "Michael's brother. Though we've never met, family disagreements kept us apart for years." Viola's instincts screamed danger as his smile never reached his eyes. Michael never mentioned a brother. No, he wouldn't. Have. James moved closer, dropping his voice. Just like he wouldn't have mentioned many things, including why you're really here with Castellano. I don't know what you mean, Viola said carefully. I think you do. His pleasant expression hardened. If you need help escaping your arrangement, I have resources. Before Viola could respond, Sergio materialized beside her. His smile remained pleasant, but his eyes promised violence. James, he said smoothly. I wasn't aware the Romano family received an invitation. The tension crackled between them until James leaned close, whispering something in Italian that made Sergio's fingers dig painfully into Viola's waist. They left immediately after, the car ride tense with unspoken threats. James is no brother, Sergio finally spoke. He's Michael's cousin, working for the Romano family, the third organization your husband betrayed. Viola processed this as he continued. His presence confirms my suspicion of an informant. Very few knew we would attend tonight. He handed her a file. Inside, documents revealed Michael's willing participation in elaborate money laundering schemes. Worse, Viola found DEA investigation papers showing her nursing credentials used to authorize stolen medication shipments, her signature forged dozens of times. Either you're the most convincing innocent I've ever seen, Sergio said quietly, studying her reaction, or your husband set you up as his fall person from the beginning. The realization hit Viola like physical pain. Michael hadn't just been planning to disappear with the money. He'd arranged for her to take the blame, leaving her to face criminal charges while he vanished with millions. The sunrise painted Chicago's skyline in soft pinks and golds, but Viola barely noticed from her perch in Sergio's home gym. She'd wandered here hours ago, unable to sleep, her mind replaying every moment of her 8-year marriage to Michael, every anniversary dinner, every casual kiss goodbye, every shared laugh. All of it felt poisoned now. The gym door opened silently, but she sensed Sergio's presence. Instead of his usual commanding stance, he simply placed a thick file beside her and leaned against the window. The complete DEA investigation, he said quietly. You should know exactly what he did. Viola's hands trembled as she opened the file. Page after page of medication authorizations bore her forged signature, perfect replicas that would fool anyone who didn't know her distinctive loop on the letter V, shipping manifests for controlled substances, bank transfers disguised as medical supply payments. He used everything about me, she whispered, rage building in her chest. My career, my reputation, my trust, all of it was just useful to him. Sergio watched her silently, his usual threatening presence momentarily overshadowed by her anger at Michael's betrayal. A commotion in the hallway shattered their fragile moment. Raphael burst in, his normally stoic expression tight with concern. Sir, it's the little girl. Viola was running before he finished speaking. She found Lily in her bedroom, lips taking on a bluish tinge as she struggled for breath. The inhaler lay ineffective beside her. How long? Viola demanded, nurse mode engaging instantly. Started about 10 minutes ago, Claudia answered, hovering nearby. The inhaler didn't help. Viola's trained hands moved swiftly, positioning Lily upright, checking her pulse. We need a hospital, now. Too risky, one of Sergio's security team protested. She needs emergency intervention, Viola snapped. This isn't negotiable. Northwestern Memorial, Sergio cut in, already pulling out his phone. We have arrangements there. His tone silenced further security protests. Viola focused on keeping Lily stable during the tense drive, coaching her breathing while monitoring her vitals. Sergio's arrangements became clear when they entered through a private entrance, medical staff already waiting. In the emergency department, Viola seamlessly integrated with the medical team, her professional expertise evident as she relayed Lily's history and symptoms. A nurse named Tara did a double take upon seeing her. Viola, what are you doing in Chicago? I thought you were headed to Boston Children's. Their pediatric pulmonary unit was creating a position specifically for you. Viola felt Sergio's sharp attention even as she helped settle Lily for treatment. Plans changed, she said carefully. Later, as Lily rested on supplemental oxygen, Sergio cornered her. Boston Children's Hospital? It was my dream job, Viola admitted. They were developing new protocols for childhood respiratory conditions, but Michael... She swallowed hard. He refused to even discuss relocating. We had our worst fight ever about it, just weeks before he died. Because moving would have disrupted his operations, Sergio concluded, his jaw tightening. A message on his phone drew his attention. His expression darkened. Raphael will stay with you. I have to handle something. He hesitated, studying Lily's sleeping form before leaving. The hospital became a strange sanctuary. Here, Viola could pretend normalcy, discussing cases with colleagues, her medical knowledge earning natural respect. For precious hours, she wasn't a captive, but simply a nurse caring for her daughter. They returned to the penthouse that evening with new medications and a treatment plan. Viola found Sergio in his study, tie loosened, expensive scotch in hand. His usual immaculate appearance showed signs of strain. She gave him Lily's updated medical report, but he seemed distant, lost in darker thoughts. As she turned to leave, his voice stopped her. Have you ever watched someone die, knowing you could save them but weren't allowed to? The raw pain in his voice made her turn back. Sergio stared into his glass, walls momentarily crumbling. I was 12, he continued. My mother had a treatable condition, but we had no money, no power. My father was just a soldier then, couldn't afford the specialist she needed. He took a long drink. I watched her suffer for months, knowing the right treatment existed, just out of reach. Viola stood frozen as he continued. Every fortune has blood at its foundation, but mine was built on the promise that no one under my protection would ever be denied care because of money or power again. Just as quickly as it appeared, his vulnerability vanished behind familiar walls. He waved her away, but she paused at the door. Thank you for saving Lily today, she said softly, meaning it for the first time since their captivity began. 3 days after Lily's hospitalization, sunlight streamed through the penthouse windows as Viola sat cross-legged on the leather sofa. Medical journals spread around her. The subtle shifts in her captivity felt strange, like a bird's cage door left slightly ajar, testing whether it would choose to fly. Across the room, Lily sat with her tutor, Ms. Bennett, working on mathematics. The girl's color had returned to normal, her breathing steady and strong with the new medication protocol. Viola watched her daughter's small hands move confidently across the paper, marveling at how quickly children adapted to extraordinary circumstances. She's quite gifted with numbers, Sergio's voice came from behind her, making Viola start slightly. He moved like a cat, appearing without warning. She gets that from her father, Viola replied automatically, then felt the familiar twist of betrayal in her gut at mentioning Michael. Sergio settled into the armchair across from her, his suit immaculate as always. Review the shipment manifests from March. Viola nodded, gesturing to her organized notes. I've flagged anything that could trigger regulatory attention. The insulin shipments particularly. We'll discuss it tonight, he cut in smoothly, eyes flicking to where Lily's tutor sat within earshot. My office after she's asleep. The day passed in its new routine. Viola reviewed pharmaceutical documentation, her nursing expertise finding concerning patterns that had nothing to do with Michael's theft. When Lily finally drifted off, Viola made her way to Sergio's office. He sat behind his massive desk, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up, as he examined documents. Close the door, he instructed without looking up. Viola complied, taking her now usual seat across from him. The FDA is planning raids, he stated without preamble, sliding papers toward her. We need to ensure our legitimate operations are completely insulated. These shipments, Viola pointed to several entries. They're life-saving medications people can't access legally. The pricing makes them impossible for many to obtain through proper channels, Sergio finished, which is why we provide alternatives. Viola struggled with her conscience. It's still illegal. So is letting people die because they can't afford treatment. His gray eyes held hers. Choose your morality carefully, Viola. It's rarely as simple as legal versus illegal. They worked through the night, Viola's medical knowledge helping identify which operations needed immediate distance from potential investigation. She found herself impressed, despite herself at Sergio's grasp of healthcare regulations. This protocol, she said around 3 a.m., it's not optimal. The dosing schedule needs adjustment. To her surprise, Sergio didn't dismiss her concern. Explain. She outlined the medical rationale, watching him absorb the information with genuine interest. When dawn painted the office windows pink, they were still working, empty coffee cups scattered between them. They migrated to the terrace, the morning air crisp as they nursed fresh coffee. Viola watched him covertly, his usual rigid control softened by exhaustion, making him seem almost human. His phone shattered the moment. Viola couldn't help overhearing the rapid Italian, recognizing enough medical terminology to understand Salvatore's condition had deteriorated. When he hung up, the strain showed clearly on his face. Viola hesitated, then offered, I recently reviewed research on similar cases. There are new treatment approaches. His sharp look stopped her. What research? She outlined the studies from her medical journals, watching surprise register as he realized the depth of her knowledge. That evening, she brought the relevant papers to his office, finding him mid-video call with Swiss doctors. "Ah, excellent timing," Sergio said smoothly. "Let me introduce Dr. Russo, my pharmaceutical consultant." Viola's eyes widened at the lie, but professional instinct took over as she presented her recommendations. The specialist's enthusiasm was clear, even through the video connection. After the call, she rounded on Sergio. "You can't misrepresent my credentials like that." "You just provided more insight than their entire team," he countered, something like appreciation in his expression. "I'm offering you a new arrangement. Continue consulting, and this becomes protection rather than captivity, including supervised contact with your cousin." He moved closer, taking the research papers from her hands. His fingers brushed hers, sending an unwanted spark of awareness through her body. This close, she could smell his cologne, see the faint stubble on his jaw after the long night's work. "Your husband underestimated you," he said softly. "I won't make the same mistake." Viola stood frozen, acutely aware of his proximity and the dangerous territory they were entering, where professional respect and unwanted attraction blurred the lines of their complicated arrangement. The morning sun filtered through the penthouse windows as Viola organized patient files, her new routine a stark contrast to her captivity just weeks ago. The sound of Lily's laughter drifted from the living room, where she played chess with her tutor, the normalcy of it almost making Viola forget the armed guards stationed throughout the building. 2 weeks had transformed her role from prisoner to protected consultant, though the distinction sometimes felt meaningless. Her medical expertise had proven valuable enough that Sergio now included her in legitimate pharmaceutical operations, her nurse's training finding purpose in unexpected ways. The weekly video calls with her cousin provided an anchor to her former life, though Viola was acutely aware of Raphael monitoring every word. Still, seeing a familiar face and assuring her family's safety helped ease the constant tension of their situation. "There's been a problem." Sergio's voice cut through her concentration. He stood in the doorway, his usual composed expression hardened with concern. "A critical shipment's been intercepted. James Russo's people." Viola's stomach clenched. The shipment contained specialized treatments for Salvatore, along with medications for other patients dependent on Castellano's distribution network. "How bad?" "Bad enough that I'm handling it personally." Sergio moved to his desk, checking his weapon with practiced efficiency. "This isn't something I can delegate." "The violence?" Viola began, but Sergio cut her off with a cold look. "Without these treatments, people die, including my father. The math is simple." He withdrew an encrypted phone from his desk. "Keep this with you. Emergency only. Raphael has the companion unit." The trust implicit in this gesture wasn't lost on Viola. She accepted the phone, watching as Sergio donned his jacket, obscuring his holster. "Be careful," she found herself saying, surprising them both. After putting Lily to bed early, Viola paced the terrace restlessly. The city lights blurred below, her thoughts scattered between worry for the patients dependent on those medications and concern for Sergio's safety that she wasn't ready to examine too closely. The encrypted phone's harsh ring near midnight made her jump. Gunfire crackled in the background as Sergio's terse voice came through. "Prepare the medical room. Incoming wounded." Viola's nursing training kicked in immediately. She gathered supplies, directing Raphael's men with professional authority when they arrived carrying one of their own, blood soaking through his shirt. Sergio followed, his left sleeve darkened with what was clearly his own blood. "Pressure here," she instructed one of the men as she assessed the critical patient. Her hands moved with practiced skill, stabilizing the wound until their discreet medical contacts could arrive. Throughout her work, she felt Sergio's intense gaze following her movements. Only after the wounded man was stabilized did she turn her attention to Sergio. "Let me see your arm." "It's nothing, a graze." "Let me see it," she insisted, her tone brooking no argument. Surprisingly, he complied, removing his jacket and shirt to reveal a nasty bullet graze across his bicep. As Viola cleaned the wound, their proximity felt, charged in a way their previous interactions hadn't been. "James led the attack himself," Sergio said quietly. "He knew exactly when and where to hit us. The leak is closer than we thought." He paused, jaw tightening. He mentioned Lily by name. Fear sliced through Viola's chest. "What?" "He won't touch her," Sergio promised, his voice deadly quiet. "But we need to increase security." The genuine protection in his tone broke something in Viola's careful, emotional distance. Her hands trembled slightly as she finished bandaging his arm. Sergio's hand caught her wrist, his grip gentle but firm. Their eyes met, weeks of building tension crackling between them. "Tell me to stop," he murmured, drawing her closer. Instead of pulling away, Viola found herself leaning in. Their first kiss was explosive, a release of adrenaline and attraction they'd both been fighting. Sergio's uninjured arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her against his bare chest as the kiss deepened with unexpected tenderness. Viola broke away first, her breath uneven. Sergio didn't pursue, but his thumb traced her cheek with devastating gentleness. "This changes nothing about our arrangement," he said softly, though his darkened eyes suggested otherwise. "Except, perhaps, that we both admit there is something here beyond necessity." Retreating to her room, Viola pressed her fingers to her tingling lips. Her feelings for Sergio had evolved into something frighteningly complex, a mixture of fear and attraction, gratitude and resentment that defied simple categorization. She wondered if this was Stockholm Syndrome, or something more genuine growing in the pressure cooker of their circumstances. The memory of his kiss lingered, along with the fierce protectiveness in his voice when speaking of Lily's safety. Everything had changed, yet nothing was resolved. They remained caught in their dangerous web of necessity and desire, protection and threat, neither fully captive nor truly free. The morning sun painted golden stripes across Viola's bed as consciousness slowly returned. For a moment, she lay suspended between sleep and waking until memories of the previous night crashed over her. The frantic medical treatment, Sergio's wounded arm beneath her hands, and that kiss that had shattered every careful boundary between them. A cream-colored note on her nightstand caught her attention. Sergio's bold handwriting informed her of his departure to Switzerland, where he would personally oversee his father's treatment. The increased security measures were outlined with military precision, and Raphael's authority during his 3-day absence was clearly established. The postscript made her pulse quicken. "We will discuss recent developments upon my return." The formal tone felt jarring after the heat of their last encounter. Viola pressed her fingers to her lips, phantom sensations of their kiss lingering. Part of her felt relieved at Sergio's absence. Space to think, to breathe, to examine. Her conflicted emotions without his overwhelming presence, she threw herself into time with Lily, trying to ground herself in the simple joy of motherhood. But even these precious moments carried complicated undertones. Watching Lily contentedly arrange her new dolls in their designer playhouse, Viola couldn't ignore how thoroughly her daughter had adapted to their gilded cage. "Look, Mommy!" Lily proudly held up her latest artwork. "It's our family." Viola's heart clenched at the crayon figures. Herself, Lily, and Sergio, all holding hands beneath a smiling sun. How had they reached this point where her 6-year-old saw their captor as family? The second day of Sergio's absence brought an unexpected disruption. The encrypted phone's harsh ring startled Viola from helping Lily with her schoolwork. Paolo's voice came through, smooth yet commanding, demanding her immediate presence at the Castellano offices for urgent medical consultation. She caught Raphael's frown as he received the same orders. He seemed torn between loyalty to Sergio's direct command to keep them in the penthouse and the necessity of following Paolo's authority in the family hierarchy. "Claudia will stay with Lily," Raphael finally decided, dispatching additional security to the penthouse. "We go directly there and back." The Castellano pharmaceutical headquarters hummed with activity. Viola noticed how staff members nodded respectfully as she passed, clearly familiar with her role as Sergio's medical consultant. The transition from captive to valued advisor had happened so gradually she'd barely noticed it. Paolo's office occupied a corner of the executive floor, its windows offering commanding views of Chicago's financial district. "Ah, Dr. Russo," he greeted her with artificial warmth. "We have an urgent situation requiring your expertise." The secure laboratory he led her to contained stacks of documentation awaiting review before a major hospital shipment could proceed. As Viola worked, Paolo lingered, making increasingly pointed comments about her relationship with his nephew. "Sergio has always been intense in his pursuits," Paolo remarked, studying her reaction. "But lately he seems dangerously distracted from family priorities." Viola kept her expression neutral as she reviewed the paperwork, but her attention sharpened as she noticed discrepancies. Quantities didn't align with manifests, and several signatures belonged to doctors whose names she recognized from the DEA files Sergio had shown her. "These numbers seem irregular," she ventured carefully. And Dr. Martinez's signature. Paolo's demeanor shifted instantly, false warmth evaporating. Perhaps you should focus on the medical aspects rather than administrative details. The encrypted phone's ring cut through the tension. Sergio's voice carried clear concern when she mentioned her location. Get back to the penthouse immediately. I'll handle Paolo. Raphael hustled her out, but not before she caught Paolo, making another call, his calculating gaze following their departure. That evening, as she tucked Lily into bed, security alarms shattered the penthouse's peace. Raphael burst in, weapon drawn. Panic room now! We have a panic room, Viola gasped, scooping up Lily. Third panel behind the library shelf, Raphael commanded, leading them to a fortified space she'd never known existed. Gunfire echoed from lower floors as they sealed themselves inside. Raphael's expression was grim. This breach shouldn't be possible without inside access to our security protocols. Hours crawled by before the encrypted phone rang again. Sergio's voice carried carefully controlled fury. The attack's been repelled. Paolo orchestrated it, likely working with James Russo. He used your office visit to extract security data. Viola clutched Lily's sleeping form closer as Sergio continued. I'm returning tonight, but understand, my uncle has moved against both my father and me. What comes next won't be business. It will be war. The call ended, leaving Viola in the panic room's artificial light, holding her daughter and processing how completely their world had transformed. She had begun trusting Sergio without realizing it, finding safety with the very man who had once represented her greatest fear. Pre-dawn shadows painted the penthouse walls as Sergio strode through the door, his tall frame radiating tension. Viola watched from the hallway as he conferred with his security team, their whispered conversations carrying urgency without panic. Dark circles beneath his eyes betrayed exhaustion, though his movements remained precise, controlled. When he caught sight of her, he dismissed his men with a sharp gesture. The space between them felt charged as he approached. Their last moment together had ended in an unexpected kiss, now overshadowed by Paolo's betrayal. We're leaving, he said without preamble. The estate outside the city. It's more secure, better isolated. Paolo's compromised this location. Viola nodded, already moving toward Lily's room. How's your father? Stable. We've moved him to a private facility in Canada. He followed her down the hallway, continuing in low tones. Paolo's been officially removed from family operations. Our investigators found evidence of his collaboration with the Romano family. They planned to seize control while my father was vulnerable. In Lily's room, Viola gently roused her daughter, keeping her voice light as she helped the sleepy child pack her favorite toys. Sergio stood in the doorway, his presence both protective and somehow uncertain as he watched their quiet domesticity. The convoy departed before sunrise, 3 armored SUVs with security teams coordinating through encrypted channels. Viola held Lily as she dozed against her shoulder, while Sergio divided his attention between surveillance feeds and urgent messages on his phone. The lakeside estate emerged from morning mist like something from a fairy tale, its elegant architecture belied by military-grade security measures. Armed guards patrolled the expansive grounds, their movements systematic and professional. Yet inside, the mansion carried unexpected warmth. Family photographs lined hallways. 4 generations of Castellanos had sought sanctuary here. As they settled in, Sergio's phone rang. His expression darkened as he listened, eyes finding Viola's with new intensity. Once Lily was happily occupied with breakfast under Raphael's watchful eye, he led Viola to his study. Our investigators found this, he said, spreading documents across his desk. Paolo had been in contact with Michael before his death. Viola leaned closer, scanning banking records that made her blood run cold. What am I looking at? Michael was preparing to transfer the embezzled funds to an account with a specific beneficiary. Sergio's voice softened with uncharacteristic gentleness. Lily. The revelation hit Viola like a physical blow. He made our daughter the key to millions in stolen money. She'll never be safe. There will always be someone hunting her. Before Sergio could respond, his secure line rang. The call lasted barely 2 minutes, but his demeanor shifted subtly. FBI agents are requesting a meeting regarding Paolo's activities. FBI? Viola stared at him. You work with federal agents? Selectively. I provide information about competing trafficking operations, ones that interfere with legitimate pharmaceutical distribution. He met her shocked expression steadily. It's part of a longer strategy to transition the organization toward legitimacy before my father's death. Evening found Viola on the private dock, watching moonlight dance across the lake's surface. The day's revelations swirled in her mind. Michael's final betrayal, Sergio's complex moral positioning, the dawning understanding that nothing in this world was as simple as she'd once believed. Footsteps on wooden planks announced Sergio's approach. He offered a glass of wine, his movements careful, almost hesitant. They stood in awkward silence until Viola finally spoke. "Why pharmaceuticals? Of all the legitimate businesses you could have chosen." "My mother died from a treatable condition," he said quietly. "By the time my father had earned enough money for experimental treatments, it was too late. I built this." He gestured vaguely at the estate, the empire beyond. "To ensure that never happens again. The money Michael stole was meant for research into diseases like my father's." Understanding washed over Viola as pieces clicked into place. His protection of their medical shipments, his focus on rare disease treatments, the careful cultivation of FBI contacts who might eventually help legitimize his operations. Sergio moved closer, his hand finding hers in the darkness. "When this is over, you'll have a choice. Take Lily and her inheritance, disappear somewhere safe, or stay and help build something that saves lives rather than takes them." Their eyes met in the moonlight. This time when they kissed, it held none of their first kisses' desperate intensity. Instead, it carried weight, acknowledgement, possibility. Their fingers remained intertwined as they walked back to the house, both aware that tomorrow's dangers still loomed, but facing them now as partners rather than captor and captive. The morning sun cast golden ripples across the lake, painting patterns on the walls of Sergio's bedroom. Viola stirred slowly, her body pleasantly sore from the previous night's passionate culmination of weeks of building tension. The silk sheets whispered against her skin as she turned to find Sergio already awake, watching her with an expression she'd never seen before. Soft, almost vulnerable. For a precious moment, his usual iron control fell away, revealing the man beneath the calculated exterior. Then his phone chimed, reality intruding with its harsh demands. His features shifted, hardening back into the leader who carried the weight of an empire. "Federal agents will be here this afternoon," he said, checking messages. "We need to discuss Paolo's activities and the broader investigation." He paused, studying her face. "James is planning something. My sources say it's significant, likely using Paolo's inside knowledge." Viola sat up, clutching the sheet to her chest. "What do you need from me?" "I want you to meet with the agents, not as a captive, but as an ally. Your pharmaceutical knowledge is valuable." His hand found hers atop the sheets. "This isn't an order, it's a request." The distinction wasn't lost on her. Their dynamic had shifted dramatically, moving closer to equals than their initial captive-captor relationship. She nodded slowly. "I'll help." They found Lily in the kitchen with Claudia, the child chattering excitedly about exploring the estate's grounds. She'd adapted to their relocation with remarkable resilience, treating it as an adventure rather than an upheaval. Viola envied her daughter's innocent perspective. In Sergio's study, he presented Viola with legal documents, an immunity agreement his lawyers had carefully crafted. It protected her from prosecution related to both Michael's crimes and her recent work with Castellano operations. The gesture touched her deeply, representing not just protection, but acknowledgement of her autonomy. "You're ensuring I have choices," she said quietly, signing where indicated. "You've earned them," he replied, his hand brushing her shoulder. Agents Chen and Morales arrived precisely on schedule, their government-issue suits and direct manner contrasting with the estate's luxury. They laid out their investigation methodically, a complex RICO case targeting multiple organizations involved in pharmaceutical trafficking. Sergio's controlled information had helped them identify the most dangerous networks while protecting legitimate Castellano interests. "We're particularly interested in Paolo Castellano's connection to the Romano family," Agent Chen explained, spreading photographs across Sergio's desk. "These meetings suggest coordinated efforts to disrupt legitimate pharmaceutical distribution." While Sergio reviewed the evidence, Agent Morales requested a private word with Viola. In the adjacent room, the agent's demeanor shifted subtly. "Mrs. Russo, we can offer you complete immunity and witness protection in exchange for testimony against the Castellano organization." Morales watched her carefully. "This offer is separate from your current arrangement." Viola recognized the dual nature of the moment, a genuine escape route and a test of where her loyalties now lay. The choice was surprisingly easy. She rejoined Sergio without mentioning the offer, catching the slight approval in both agents' expressions. After the agents departed, Viola and Sergio shared a quiet dinner with Lily. The child's innocent chatter about her tutor's science lessons provided a facade of normalcy that shattered when Sergio's encrypted phone rang. Claudia's panic was evident even from across the table. Raphael hadn't returned from his assignment. As Sergio mobilized his security teams to locate his most trusted man, Viola's old phone rang. She hadn't heard its tone since their first days in the penthouse. The screen displayed an unknown number. "Hello, Viola," James Russo's voice slithered through the connection. "I believe I have something of yours." A photo appeared. Raphael bound and bloodied, his usually stoic expression twisted in pain. More images followed. The federal agents arriving at the estate, Viola and Sergio on the dock the previous night, even her cousin's house in Minneapolis. "You have 1 hour to come alone to this address," James continued, sending a location. "Any deviation, any attempt to involve Sergio, and Raphael dies first. Then we'll work our way through other associates you've grown fond of." Sergio reached for the phone, but Viola pulled back sharply as James added, "If that phone leaves your hand, execution orders are immediate. This is between us Russos now, family business." The line went dead. Viola looked at Sergio, finding cold fury in his expression that oddly calmed her racing thoughts. "We'll get Raphael back," he promised, already typing rapid commands into his phone. "But not the way James expects. He's just made his final mistake." The plan they formulated together erased any remaining line between captive and ally. Viola was now unquestionably part of the Castellano world, her fate bound to theirs by choice rather than force. Twilight painted long shadows across the lakeside estate's manicured grounds as Viola stood in Sergio's study, memorizing the plan one final time. She wore dark clothes chosen specifically to conceal the sophisticated tracking device, while the communication earpiece was virtually invisible, unless someone knew exactly where to look. "Test the audio," Sergio instructed, his usual commanding tone tight with an emotion she'd never heard before. "Receiving clearly," she responded, watching him nod in satisfaction. Down the hall, Lily slept peacefully in the estate's most secure room, surrounded by additional guards and Claudia's protective presence. Viola had kissed her daughter goodnight as normal, fighting to keep her voice steady while telling her she'd see her in the morning. The weight of that potential lie sat heavy in her chest. "The perimeter team is in position," Raphael's replacement reported, marking locations on a tactical map. "We have eyes on all approaches to the clinic." Viola studied the building's layout again. The abandoned medical facility had once been part of Castellano's legitimate operations before being shuttered during a regulatory investigation. She knew every entrance, every corridor, every potential hiding place where James's men might wait. "Remember," Sergio said, "maintain natural reactions. James will be watching for any sign this is coordinated." His fingers brushed her arm. "The moment we confirm Raphael's location and James's position, we move." The tactical preparation suddenly shattered as Sergio pulled her into a fierce embrace. His public mask of control vanished, replaced by raw emotion she'd never witnessed. "This ends tonight," he promised, voice rough against her hair. "After this, you'll never have to fear for Lily again." Their kiss tasted of desperation and determination, carrying the weight of their extraordinary journey from that stormy night when he'd found her breaking into his restaurant. Everything had changed since then. Her understanding of Michael's betrayal, her place in this dangerous world, and most significantly, her feelings for the man who'd begun as her captor and become something entirely different. "The car's ready," one of Sergio's men announced quietly. Viola pulled back, straightening her shoulders. The unmarked sedan waiting outside was driven by Marco, one of Sergio's most trusted veterans. As they drove through Chicago's darkening streets, Viola reflected on the complete transformation of her world in just over a month. She'd gone from desperate mother, fleeing unnamed threats, to willing participant in an operation involving federal agents and criminal organizations. The abandoned clinic loomed ahead, its darkened windows reflecting the last traces of sunset. Following instructions delivered by burner phone, Viola entered through a side door, her footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. "Signal strong," Sergio's voice confirmed in her ear. "Team 1 in position, Team 2 moving to secondary entry points." She navigated deeper into the facility, past abandoned examination rooms and obsolete medical equipment. The air grew staler as she descended to the lower level where James had instructed her to meet. Her heart pounded, but her nurse's training helped maintain steady breathing and clear focus. The The central area had once been a research laboratory. James waited there, flanked by 2 armed men. Raphael sat bound to a chair, his face bruised but his eyes alert. Most importantly, Viola spotted what she'd been told to look for: the distinctive signet ring on James's right hand, a Russo family heirloom she'd seen in photos of Michael. Right on time, James smiled, cold and calculating. Family punctuality. Let Raphael go, Viola demanded, playing her role. I'm here like you asked. James launched into what he clearly thought was his moment of triumph, revealing the final pieces of the puzzle that had destroyed her life. Your husband was smarter than anyone knew, he said, pacing with theatrical confidence. We spent years setting up the perfect scheme, embezzling from all 3 families while they were too busy watching each other to notice their money disappearing. Viola listened as James detailed how he and Michael had been cousins, working together until Michael developed a conscience. He wanted to back out, take his little family and run, James sneered, as if anyone walks away from something this big. The accident had been meticulously planned, but James discovered too late that Michael had secured the funds behind unbreakable biological verification. Only Michael, or his direct blood relative, could access the accounts. That's why I need the girl, James said, watching Viola's genuine horror with satisfaction. Nothing personal against Lily. She's just the key to what's rightfully mine. As James began detailing his plan to use Viola to draw Lily out of Sergio's protection, the first flashbang grenades exploded through the upper windows. Federal agents and Sergio's team breached simultaneously from multiple entry points, filling the space with controlled chaos. James grabbed Viola, pulling her against him as a shield while backing toward a concealed exit. The standoff crystallized, James's men exchanging fire with federal agents while Sergio's team maneuvered for position. Through it all, Raphael had been working his bonds loose. When James's attention shifted for a crucial moment, Raphael launched himself at the nearest gunman. The impact sent them both crashing into equipment. James fired wildly, the shot catching Raphael in the shoulder. Before he could fire again, Sergio appeared like an avenging angel, his own weapon already raised with lethal intent. Sunlight bathed the modern glass building as crowds gathered for the Castellano Medical Foundation's opening ceremony. Viola smoothed Lily's dress, a miniature version of her own elegant blue sheath, while camera flashes captured Chicago's elite, arriving to witness the philanthropic evolution of one of the city's most powerful families. Ready, sweetheart? Viola asked, watching Lily practically vibrate with excitement over her role in the ceremony. Can I practice with the scissors again? Lily clutched the ceremonial gold scissors like a precious treasure. They're still just as sharp as 5 minutes ago. Sergio appeared behind them, his hand settling possessively at Viola's waist. Even after 6 months, his touch still sent electricity through her. The clinic represented everything they'd fought for: a state-of-the-art facility dedicated to treating children with rare conditions regardless of their family's ability to pay. Its sleek exterior concealed cutting-edge equipment and research laboratories that would have made Michael's stolen millions seem insignificant in comparison. Sergio guided them toward the podium, every inch the respected businessman in his perfectly tailored suit. Only Viola recognized the deadly grace beneath his public persona, the ruthlessness that had systematically eliminated their enemies while building this legitimate dream. The Romano family had crumbled under federal indictments, their operations dismantled using evidence recovered from James's personal files. Paolo's imprisonment awaiting trial had sent a clear message about betrayal's consequences while accelerating Sergio's plans for legitimacy. As the ceremony began, Viola spotted Raphael in the crowd, his shoulder fully healed as he coordinated security with subtle hand signals. Beside him, Claudia beamed with pride, having helped design the clinic's family support services. The Castellano Medical Foundation represents a new chapter for Chicago, Sergio addressed the crowd, his voice commanding complete attention. Every child deserves access to life-saving care, regardless of circumstances. Viola's throat tightened, remembering his confession about watching his mother die from treatable illness. That personal tragedy had forged both his ruthless strength and his determination to prevent others from suffering the same fate. When it was time for the ribbon cutting, Lily stepped forward with perfect poise, displaying the natural grace that made strangers assume she'd been born into this world of power and privilege. Viola helped steady the scissors, while Sergio's hand covered both of theirs, the 3 of them cutting the ribbon together as cameras flashed. The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur of handshakes and congratulations. Viola caught snippets of conversation about Salvatore's improving condition under experimental treatments in Canada. Though still serious, his prognosis had improved enough that he'd begun discussing returning to Chicago. Hours later, they finally returned to the lakeside estate that had become their home. Lily raced inside to change out of her formal dress, while Viola kicked off her heels with a relieved sigh. "Come to my office," Sergio said softly, his public mask falling away to reveal the intensity that still made her breath catch. Inside his private sanctuary, he retrieved a leather portfolio containing documents. The first set confirmed the offshore accounts Michael and James had died fighting over, now legally transferred to a trust for Lily's education and future. "These ensure she'll never want for anything," Sergio explained, then revealed another set of papers that made Viola's heart stop. Adoption documents making his protection of Lily official under law. "Sergio," she whispered, understanding the magnitude of this commitment. He wasn't finished. From his desk drawer, he withdrew a small velvet box that had clearly been waiting for this moment. Inside nestled an exquisite vintage ring, delicate filigree surrounding a flawless diamond. "This was my mother's," he said quietly, his voice containing a gentleness few would believe him capable of expressing. "The only thing of hers I was able to keep." Rising from his chair, he approached where Viola stood frozen. "You stumbled into my life asking for one night," he continued, gray eyes intense with emotion. "Now I'm asking for forever." His hands cupped her face with surprising tenderness. "You and Lily are mine, and I protect what's mine." The ring slid perfectly onto her finger, its weight both foreign and right. As she stared at it sparkling in the fading sunlight, Viola marveled at the strange path that had led them here. From desperate mother breaking into a restaurant to partner in building something extraordinary. "Mommy, Daddy!" Lily burst into the office, already changed into comfortable clothes. She launched herself at them both, and they caught her automatically, now practiced at becoming the solid unit she needed. Holding her family, Viola understood that sometimes the greatest gifts come disguised as catastrophes. Their happiness might not fit conventional definitions, but it was unquestionably real. Forged in fire, sealed with devotion, and protected by a love as dangerous as it was complete.